This is my 1.6 HDI Peugeot partner, 2007, roughly about 103,000 miles. I've had this car for quite a while. What really annoys me quite a lot, and these heat shields, these aluminium heat shields, really bang on, and the whole car sounds like a tractor. So this is a video how you can really fix that, and it to be extremely silent and never really to have any problems, almost indefinitely. I wouldn't say definitely, but almost forever to never really have a problem with these heat shields. Stay tuned. So in order to get access to the heat shields, this turbo pipe that goes to the intercooler needs to be removed, and then we can get access to those. So it's basically a fairly simple structure. So you have a front heat shield that goes like that, one at the back and kind of one at the top. So this is the front heat shield, this is the top heat shield, and at the back there is one at the engine. So first I need to just undo that screw, and that's a simple screwdriver. Next thing, one just needs to peel this rubber off to get it outside of this. It's a bit of a tricky. I hold it down here and just kind of push it outside like that. It's fairly easy. I mean, you have some oil inside. You can probably see there is some oily bits from the crankcase breather, so it should be fairly easy. Next thing, of course, is to remove the cover. It's a simple, you just lift it. It's got two kind of pins that sits on, so it's fairly easy. So next thing is that bolt. It's a 10mm bolt. So my wrench kind of doesn't quite fit underneath there because the turbo kind of stops it. I don't really have a thinner one to do. So what I generally do is I would undo this bolt and slightly push the turbo, the air intake towards that direction, so I can put the spanner. I mean, it's easy. I can use a spanner instead of a wrench here, but then tightening it, it's a specific Newton meter, so I need to really have a wrench in there. So that's also a screwdriver. So undid this until this bracket is kind of free, and then you push the turbo. But because you can push it easily, but because these are very sharp edges, I don't want to cut into the rubber. So I really have this. Let me put that. I have this. It's holding pairs from my shopping, so I can put it in between, not to cut the rubber. So I'll push it on slightly, put it there, kind of to stop it cutting into the rubber. So I managed to find even thinner wrench here, so I can undo that bolt. There we go. That's the bolt. So then this whole thing there is a catch underneath. I'll show it later. So basically you lift it from underneath here and kind of swings that side, kind of pivots on here, not on the bolt because there is no bolt, kind of pivots on that side. So basically you, until it unclicks, and then you kind of swing it and undo it. So this is the grommet that catches on that bolt, so basically you have to lift it from that one. Of course you can put back the pipe, the turbo, the intake. It's just easier to put it back in rather than to have some pressure on here and this to crack. So I'll undo the 3 bolts, 1, 2 and 3, and then 2 more that are holding this upper heat shield, and then I can take this upper heat shield and show you where the points are that are crack and how I've solved it with these 2 brackets. So these 3 bolts is T30 hex bit. So these 2 bolts that hold the shield and my bracket, I'll show why I think this is really a good design. This is a 10mm socket. And this is the bolt that has a little bit of a shoulder here that the air from the turbo goes into the intercooler. It clips on that one. So I'll take these brackets and then I'll kind of show the most common failure points on these heat shields. So this could be removed, it kind of slides underneath, but you have to kind of hold these in, because it's not too easy to kind of slip outside. Well, not too easy, but it's actually quite easy, to be honest. So this is an aluminium piece. Here it has supposed to be the same bracket as that one, but this breaks here. This will also break here eventually. You have another aluminium piece at the back that kind of holds here, but from the vibration this really always breaks. So this has kind of broken. I'm not too sure if you can see it. This has also broken around here. It's only left with this little kind of metal piece there. So this will eventually break. And the most common failure, I already replaced that. That's a replacement, because these broke. It started to rattle. It basically let me put it back in. It goes like that, and it starts to really rattle. Well, when you put the bolts in, it starts to really rattle like that. And then already replaced one, and this is pretty expensive. This part is, I think, 30 pounds or so, and this will break again here. There is a small crack in here. Eventually some of them break here. That I might have to do something about those, but these two break, and I really don't want to spend another 30 pounds on buying this part, and in another year or so they really break within 2 years or so. This is pretty cheap design. Let me put this back in. So my solution to this is these two brackets. It's just steel. I'm not too sure. 2mm steel. I mean, you can have a 2mm because it's just easier to shape, because I don't really have, I just have hand tools to bend it into shape. So I basically bend it into shape with tools to be down there. And what this does, this really supports this whole structure not to really shake. This also goes here, but I'll probably lose it. Not to shake, so these 2 points don't vibrate and don't hit anything. And I had these two brackets I've had, well, you see how rusty they are. I've had it for about 4 years, and this been silent. Like, there hasn't been a single sound, and it permanently fixes. I mean, 4 years, this hasn't. I mean, one is broken, but the other it still stays there. So I drilled 2 holes, basically kind of shaped it, put it into shape. The one thing that I have to be quite careful on that side here. So I filed it with a file around here, around this edge, because it kind of, when this goes above, it kind of sometimes it could rub on that part. I don't really have a hole in that, so I've kind of put it into shape, and it's fairly easy. You just bend it into shape. I mean, it's quite a bit rusty, so I really try to take the rust off, because it's a bit unsightly, this thing. I'll take the rust off. So basically you bend it into shape. So this has to be kind of flat here. Basically bend it into shape. I use pliers and hand tools rather than anything. And it's this steel it's quite cheap, so you cut it and bend it. So I really try to take the rust off this and put a zinc plating on that, just to be actually nice and match the aluminium color. So these two with the power of editing, and this is how they look now. They look actually amazing. This is with zinc electroplating. I mean, look how shiny they are. This one's a lot better, a lot shinier, and it's quite smooth. I polished it with 5000 sandpaper. This one's a bit on the, I'm not too sure which side it is. Yeah, it's like that. It's a bit more duller, and you can see zinc, but because I was using a lot of tools, to kind of hand tools, you can see the marks of where I hit the pliers on, and in order to bend it, kind of into shape, but let me put them on. But they look really nice with the, I mean the camera doesn't pick it, there's a bit of a, looks duller color, but they look almost the same color, so this will actually match really nicely, and this will get duller color with the zinc. With time it will oxidate, it won't be that shiny, so it will actually probably look like the aluminium there. But how shiny and how nice it looks, I can't believe it, how good it turned out. So I stripped the rust with electrolysis and zinc plated it with again electrolysis, and it's actually quite nice. But we'll see, the problem is that there is quite a bit of heat on the engine, so the zinc plating probably won't survive, but it might, but depends on how much the temperature is. This cannot really withstand much more than 210 degrees Celsius, so it might eventually break down, but it's a test. I'll report back if that's quite good. Of course, I could have bought stainless steel, but I didn't at the time. I just bought standard steel. It wasn't stainless steel. So, but yeah, that's a good option. So the fitting is the reverse of the removal, of course. What I'll do, probably fit first from that side these two bolts, the bracket, because it will be kind of easier. Probably fit that one first. Then you kind of have to hold it a bit on the upward position, because it's a bit more difficult to fit that side. Just not to drop it. Kind of to pre-fit everything before actually fitting fitting everything. So these two bolts, 6 Newton meters. These three, I don't know, I just tighten them until kind of they're quite hard, but I've tightened them, but not entirely, until I break the thread. Next thing is to fit the kind of pipe from the turbo to the intercooler, and generally I'll put a bit of oil on that O-ring before fitting it, and of course I have a bit of a tissue to dip in there. You just spray it slightly, just not to be entirely dry. Next thing is just fitting it on the turbo. Basically you hold it like that, push it until it kind of fits. You cannot really quite see it, but just generally push it, and then kind of swing it around, keeping it kind of in there. Then in the sleeve you have to kind of push the sleeve down, fit, and then kind of push it to click in. It kind of clicks on this bolt. Next is to push that inside and tie that bolt. And you have to make sure that the rubber sleeve hasn't folded on itself. And then next is that bolt, and that bolt is 10 Newton meters. So you have to pull out the hose and fit in this rubber thing, not to damage the rubber. The next thing is to tie it up to 10 Newton meters. of course, you should make sure that there are no debris inside the turbo. Next is the turbo, also on the turbo bracket. I'm trying to do it on camera. You have to make sure that really this is nice and secure. And that's it. Actually, this looks really good. Of course, you have to make sure that this does not really touch that much. Does not touch the plastic, so it doesn't rub it to kind of make a hole in the in kind of the resonator here. So you have to kind of double check that this is it's not touching. But that's it. It looks nice and cool. This is kind of underneath, you can't quite see it. But this sooner or later, it will kind of have the same kind of color, or maybe not. It will probably be zingy, look like silverish, but it's a lot better than being rusty. So thank you very much indeed. That's how you can fix your heat shield, not to vibrate, not to rattle, and it's forever. I've had this for 4 years and still works. So hopefully that's useful to someone. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Let me know for any comments in the comment section. Thank you. So in order to get access to the heat shields, next thing, I think my wrench, well, not that wrench, and I can put my wrench. Yeah, that wrench doesn't fit anyway, whether you remove the turbo or not. Okay, so I have to have another wrench. Okay, we'll probably edit this out. Ooh. So the other wrench didn't really quite fit into place, and I have a torque wrench that is much thinner here. You're not supposed to undo bolts with torque wrench. That's not too much torque, but I don't really have any other. Maybe I should do it with spanner. Yeah, I should probably do it with a spanner rather than with a wrench. Okay. I'll edit this out as well. Okay, so my torque wrench doesn't fit, so you don't really need to. Well, for tightening up, you probably need this, but I can do it with a kind of spanner. Well, can do it with a spanner, but this doesn't quite fit in there. Of course, it won't fit. This is only to damage the bolt, so I have to use the spanner anyway. Okay. Well, still doesn't fit quite good. It's pushing there. Yeah, I have to try with a third. Torque wrench here. Oh yeah, finally that fits perfectly there. Jesus, you have to find all sorts of tools. Okay. So these bolts T30. Well, T30 what? I don't know what T30, I forgot what the name of that was. Oh come on, I dropped this part and I can't take it now. Oh come on. I'll drop it somewhere in the engine, I can't take it afterwards. I need pliers to take this one out. Try with hands. Can't find my pliers. Oh come on. Finally I took it out. And I'm gonna put that one in there.